I think it's time for us to do our new segment, the panic button. Now, I'm really excited for this because, honestly, we have a few teams that we think really need to hit the panic button. And how this is going to work is I'm going to give JD a team. He's going to give me a scale of 1 through 10 on whether or not he thinks they need to hit the panic button or not. And then we're going to dive into detail about that team, essentially. And JD, we're going to start with the Chicago Bulls.
Are they in panic mode? I think that their fans are probably not panicking because they just have been struggling for quite a while. But if you think in terms of
They're just
you're going to
used
be
to
a
the
full
losses.
rebuild,
Yes.
I would be in panic. I think if you do not do anything, you are in panic mode. And it looks like they're shifting, the Chicago Bulls are shifting to do something like that. But let's say for the sake of nothing has been done right now, and if nothing gets done, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about an 8. And
Yeah,
here's
I'm
why.
right. Yes.
Chicago Bulls have been consistently mediocre ever since Lonzo Ball got injured.
Oh, yeah.
And you need to do something. You need to make changes. And everybody thought that there was going to be changes made this past offseason where, okay, the Chicago Bulls are going to acquire somebody, they're going to be trading off somebody, and nothing happened. And that just hurts, as a Chicago Bulls fan, that kills to see that nothing gets done, where you're just as bad as you were this past season. There seems to be more drama going on behind the scenes. You see, LaVine not
how
playing
many
as
players
much.
meetings are we going to have here? You know what I mean? Like, it's like
But
every single
I'm putting it
loss,
pretty
they have a
high,
new
dog.
players meeting, and it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I just think that Chicago is in such a tricky spot, and I think that they need to just get on full rebuild. Do what the Utah Jazz did, and they might not get the haul the Utah Jazz did. That's the crazy thing, but
No,
I
they
think you
won't.
need to start looking at the draft again and just rebuild because it has not worked out. But maybe you can get some really good assets. I mean, LaVine is good. You can get some first rounds out of him. DeMar DeRozan is good. You can get first rounds out of him.
I
And
agree with
then you
that.
might even, consider trading some more pieces and just kind of lean on maybe what's coming up next, for the future. What do you think?
Here's my problem with this team is DeRozan and LaVine, while they're both individually incredible players, they just don't complement each other now that Lonzo Ball is gone. And this should have been a reset like 2 years ago. Honestly.
It's a travesty because Lonzo just brings everybody really together.
And you know what, man? That's what like really sucks about this is because like Lonzo Ball is like so underrated because like, his dad hyped him up and like I love that. I'm a father myself. I'd hype up my kids. He went to the Lakers. He didn't have the best performance whatsoever. He went to the Pelicans. He got his legs under him and he went to the Bulls and he was like, he found out who he was. And I was like, oh, damn, like we're cooking with gas now. And he got hurt and it just breaks my freaking heart, man. I love Lonzo Ball. But the truth is, like, you're right. This team's never been the same ever since he got hurt. They picked up Javon Carter, which is interesting because it stopped Sumo's development. And like, I really don't understand that. They also grabbed Torrey Craig, which seemed to be a weird band-aid for that whole situation. Patrick Williams, man, he's been a complete disappointment. And like, I'm not saying that this isn't personal. None of these things are personal. These are facts. When you're the 4th pick in the 2020 draft and you're averaging 8 points per game in 2023, 2024, you're a disappointment. It wouldn't matter what team you're playing for. It actually shocks me, JD, that the Utah Jazz even had interest in this player at one point. Like, I remember there were rumors about trying to trade Rudy Gobert, for Patrick Williams and then obviously other filler. But that's insane to me when you look at who this player is now. He just has not played up to par. This team just doesn't have a lot of talent. The most exciting player on this team is Alex Caruso, man. Like, the Caruso show. And that's not a slight to him. Everywhere this guy goes, LA and Chicago, he becomes like a cult legend. The Bald Eagle, the Caruso show. Like, for $10 million, annually. This guy gives you really great perimeter defense. He's a hustler. He gives you pretty good shooting as well. Like I like Alex Caruso a lot. Honestly, I would even go to say that he's like the second like most valuable trade asset on this team, but we can get into that later. But you know, like I'm just disappointed with this legacy. LaVine, man, I love Zach LaVine. This sucks to say, dude, but like once again, this is not personal. He just has bad knees. He's the third option. He's making $40 million a year. He has $170 million left. And like a lot of contending teams outside of what Denver already have a shooting guard. I mean, name me one that doesn't. You know what I mean? Like this guy just isn't what he used to be, and it sucks because injury can do that to you. But even Woj said himself, there's just not a market for Zach LaVine, and you really don't have to look any further than the Nets game, which happened on the 26th of November. I think the Nets actually set their franchise record for most threes in a game at 25. Yeah, no, I'm right on that. But I think it was in the third quarter, someone set this like pin down screen for him, and he just kind of like didn't move. And it was like, he's just so lifeless off the ball that like there's no hustle there, man. And that's the problem, is like when you put the ball in his hands, like Zach LaVine is super dynamic. He's incredible. But when you take the ball away from him, there's just not a lot there. And it makes sense why a lot of like contending teams aren't clamoring for this guy's services. Like DeRozan's going to be on his way out. I mean, he's already making comments about, hey, I'd love to be traded to New York or Miami. Send me wherever. Like, the only silver lining to this team right now is the fact that they didn't fire Billy Donovan. Normally, like, we see this all the time, man. I mean, like, what happens when a team has a bad season? They fire the coach, right? Like, what happened to the 76ers? The 76ers didn't have a good season. They fired Doc Rivers, man. The Lakers weren't up to snuff. They fired their coach, right? Like everyone, like the Utah Jazz. What happened with us? What was the first thing we did before we traded players? We fired Quinn Snyder. Teams will generally fire a coach before they start to trade players. And in my opinion, Billy Donovan really isn't the problem. So I'm glad they didn't fire him, man. I kind of like that. That's really, to me, is the only silver lining to this. But like when I think of the Chicago Bulls, I think of a pristine legacy that was led by Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. And seeing like what they are right now, just like, it's sad, dude. They got to hit. This is an 8 out of 10. You got to hit the reset. Like, they got to change everything, man.
Yeah. Well,